Is Taxi a scam? Intrepid Songwriter.
Yeah.
One of the questions that floats around the online songosphere quite often is Taxi a scam? For those of you unfamiliar with Taxi, they are, in essence, an A&R service. You pay an annual membership fee of $300, and they then send you listings of labels, artists, and publishers that are looking for new song material. You set up a profile on their website, you get access to a wealth of materials, and you get listings to submit to. From their own website. Taxi helps independent artists, songwriters, and composers get record, publishing, and film/TV deals. They also charge you $5 per submission, and they decide if your song is good enough to be passed on to the listing source. The song critiquers are faceless and relatively anonymous. You might get a first name. They give you their feedback, number grade your song on various critical points, and tell you if it passed or not. If you get rejected, you are told to do the rewrites necessary and resubmit for an additional $5 fee. If you get through, your music is among the songs considered, but you don't know how many other songs are finalists, nor whom you're competing against, nor do you hear from the listing source unless they've chosen your music. So I'll ask again, is that a ripoff? Well, let me paint you a picture. Say there's a woman, and say she decides one day that she wants to get married. But she wants any prospective partner to write her a love letter describing why he thinks he should be the one she chooses to marry. She opens up a website, and she is flooded with letters. Being so inundated with offers, she gets overwhelmed. So her best friend steps in with an idea.
Tell you what,
Says the best friend.
why don't you let me screen those letters? We'll charge $5 for each screening, which we can put in our pockets, and I can tell them if they're just wasting their time or not. If the letters aren't up to snuff, I can tell them to go back and try again.
That's a great idea.
Exclaims the prospective bride.
You know what? We should charge a fee just for them to join the website. It takes time for me to read all those letters anyway, so I think they need to pay $300 if they're serious about trying to become my husband.
It's all set up, and they send letter after letter to our almost bride. The best friend, while still charging $5 per screening, only lets about 10% of the letters through. Those are the only ones she feels are good enough to woo her friend. The final list gets narrowed down to 12 men. And there's just something about the way one of them worded his letter that wins her heart. She contacts him, they meet, and both feel that it's a great fit. The wedding day is set, the bells ring, and it's a ceremony for the ages because they live streamed it all to the whole world. So the question is, all those men that didn't get to marry her, most of whom never even got their letters read, did they get ripped off? And the answer is, no, they didn't. The best friend did exactly what she said she'd do, charge a fee to screen the letters and pass on the ones that she thought were on point. What the men may have failed to realize is that the story was never going to end any other way. Even if they wrote the letter of a lifetime, there was still only going to be one winner, only one husband. They paid their money and took their chances, but they never knew and would never know exactly who they were up against or exactly what it was about the winner that stole the bride's heart. Can you see it now? Taxi is not a scam. So the point of this video is this. You need to understand exactly what it is you are paying for. You're paying Taxi for evaluation. You are paying for access to the people that can put your music in film and TV. There is no guarantee that they'll like your music. There is no guarantee that if they do like your music, they have a project that can fit it. And there is no guarantee that your music will ever be what they're looking for. You're paying Taxi for evaluation and access. Now, if you don't want to do that, you are free to try to build up those relationships yourself. You can, but that's going to be a lifetime effort. You can personally contact as many music supervisors, publishers, record labels, or artists that you want, but most of them don't take unsolicited submissions. See, there's really no way around it. One way or another, you're going to have to pay time or you're going to have to pay money. I will repeat, you are paying Taxi for access and evaluation. You're paying them to evaluate your songs, and you're paying them for access to all the publishers, music supervisors, record labels, and artists that they are connected to. Now, I've heard both sides of the argument. I've heard people say that you should never pay to have your music listened to. And I've heard people say that you will always pay to have your music listened to. I found that both can be true. It just depends on what service you're using and what approach you're taking. So in another video, I'll show you some other organizations that I do recommend. I'm not going to recommend or not recommend Taxi at all because they just kind of are what they are. But I wanted to be sure that you understood exactly what it is that you were paying for. Now, I have never met a song evaluation company, person, organization that doesn't charge to listen to your music. Do you know why? What you're paying for there is time, attention, and expertise. You're paying them to take their expertise in listening and evaluating songs to be able to take their ears to know if this is a hit or not, if it's acceptable or not, if it's up to snuff, if it's up to par or not. That takes time and that takes expertise. That's what you're paying for because you cannot be objective about your own music. You think that everything you wrote and recorded is the best thing ever. It ought to automatically be ushered to the front of the line and you ought to make $1 million because it's the best song on the planet. You will always think that about your music because it's your baby. But when you add other people in the mix, their ears are much more objective, and they're going to be able to tell better than you ever will whether or not the song is actually a fit for a project, whether or not the song is actually structured and recorded well enough to be placed, whether or not the song is actually at the competitive level it needs to be at. You're going to have to pay for that one way or the other. So I'll leave it to you to make up your mind, but what I will say definitively is that Taxi is not a scam. They do exactly what they tell you they're going to do. Don't forget to check out my other videos under music making because you can get all kinds of insights about being a songwriter that's going to save you years of frustration. Intrepid Songwriter, out.